August 9th, 1945, 10:30 a.m. Tokyo, Imperial General Headquarters. The corridors beneath the War Ministry are thick with cigarette smoke and stale air, the kind that clings to uniforms and refuses to leave. Ceiling fans whine uselessly, stirring nothing but heat and impatience. Outside, cicadas scream in the summer trees, unaware that the world has just changed again. Inside the underground command bunker, army clerks move fast but speak softly. Telephones ring, are answered, then slammed down. Maps of the home islands, creased, stabbed with colored pins, cover the walls. Just 3 days ago, those maps were redrawn in shock after Hiroshima vanished in a blinding flash. Now the men who command the Japanese Empire are trying to convince themselves that lightning cannot strike twice. At the long table sits General Korichika Anami, Minister of War. His uniform is immaculate, sword at his side, posture rigid as steel. Around him are the highest figures of Japan's military state. Admiral Soemu Toyoda, Chief of the Naval General Staff, General Yoshijiro Umezu, Chief of the Army General Staff, and senior planners who have spent years promising final victory through sacrifice. At 10:35 a.m., a communications officer hesitates at the doorway. He bows sharply. "Urgent report from Kyushu," he says. Anami does not look up. "Proceed." The officer swallows. His hands tremble as he reads from a coded dispatch, partially decoded, fragments still missing. An unknown bomb has destroyed the city of Nagasaki. The room freezes. For a moment, no one speaks. Somewhere deep in the bunker, a generator hums steadily, indifferent. Anami finally lifts his eyes. "Define destroyed," he says calmly. The officer continues, voice tightening. "One aircraft, one bomb, massive explosion, communications severed, fires unlike conventional incendiaries." Admiral Toyoda leans forward. "Another atomic weapon?" The word atomic hangs in the air like poison. Just days earlier, many in this room had convinced themselves Hiroshima was a one-time American trick, an experimental device impossible to repeat quickly. Japan's scientists had insisted such weapons required enormous resources. Surely the enemy could not possess more than one. Anami's jaw tightens. Hiroshima may have been exaggerated, enemy propaganda. A naval intelligence officer steps forward, interrupting protocol. "Sir, weather recon confirms a single bomber over Nagasaki, no escort, same flight profile as Hiroshima." Silence again. General Umezu grips the edge of the table. Nagasaki was not even the primary target, it was Kokura. That detail lands heavily. This was not a carefully chosen symbolic strike. It was operational, methodical. Anami rises slowly to his feet. If this report is accurate, then the enemy possesses more than one of these weapons. No one argues. Deep inside the bunker, the illusion of control fractures. The strategy of Ketsugo, the final decisive battle on the beaches of Kyushu, has been built on the assumption that America would bleed, hesitate, negotiate. Millions of civilians have been mobilized, bamboo spears distributed, children trained to die. Now a single aircraft has erased a city. Again. A junior staff officer speaks, barely audible. "How many casualties, sir?" The communications officer shakes his head. "Unknown, initial estimates, catastrophic." Toyoda exhales slowly. The Navy can no longer protect the skies. We have no answer to this. Anami's eyes flash. We still have the army. We still have honor. And what, Toyota replies, do we have left to defend? The argument does not explode. It simmers, restrained by rank and tradition. But something darker moves beneath it. Fear. Not fear of death, but fear that sacrifice itself has become meaningless. Another phone rings. This time, it is a direct line from the Foreign Ministry. The message is brief. The Soviet Union has declared war on Japan. Now the room truly breaks. Chairs scrape back, voices overlap. The unthinkable has arrived from two directions at once. The northern shield is gone, the southern islands burn, and the Americans possess a weapon that makes entire armies irrelevant. Anami closes his eyes for a heartbeat. This must not reach His Majesty yet, he says. We verify first. But even as he speaks, he knows verification will change nothing. Above them, Tokyo still stands. Trams still run. People still believe endurance will bring survival. But far to the southwest, Nagasaki has been swallowed by a second artificial sun, and its light is racing toward this room, unstoppable. The Japanese High Command has just learned the war is no longer being fought on human terms, and the most dangerous question of all now waits unspoken. If the enemy can do this again, how many cities are left? August 9th, 1945. Early afternoon. Imperial General Headquarters, Tokyo. The bunker grows louder as reports pile in, each one darker than the last. Nagasaki's terrain, hills and valleys that planners once believed would limit destruction, has made no meaningful difference. Fires rage in spirals. Entire districts have ceased to exist. The pattern is unmistakable. This is no anomaly. General Anami remains standing at the head of the table, arms folded behind his back, eyes fixed on the map of Kyushu. He listens as staff officers rotate in and out, delivering fragments of catastrophe. No conventional blast pattern, survivors suffering unknown burns, medical units overwhelmed within minutes. Finally, Anami raises a hand. Silence snaps into place. The Army Technical Bureau, he says. What do our scientists say? A thin man in spectacles steps forward. Major General Takeo Yasuda, liaison to Japan's atomic research program. His voice is careful, measured, as if choosing the wrong word could shatter what little remains. Our analysis after Hiroshima suggested a uranium-based weapon, Yasuda says. The energy release, beyond anything achievable with chemical explosives. And Nagasaki? Anami asks. Yasuda hesitates. Likely a different design, possibly plutonium. That detail lands like a blade. Different design means industrial depth. It means America is not improvising. It means this is a production capability. Admiral Toyota speaks quietly. How many more can they have? Yasuda does not answer directly. If their resources match our estimates, several. Several. Not infinite, but enough. General Umezu slams his fist onto the table. Then we fight on, he snaps. 1 or 2 cities do not decide the fate of an empire. Toyota turns toward him, eyes sharp. Then name the next city you are willing to lose. The room tightens. No one speaks. Kyoto has been spared so far. Tokyo still breathes. Osaka, Yokohama, Nagoya, already scarred by firebombing, could vanish entirely. Anami finally turns from the map. "We cannot surrender because of a weapon," he says. "If we do, Japan will cease to exist as a nation. The Americans will dictate our soul." "And if we do not," Toyota replies, "there may be no nation left to dictate." The debate fractures along familiar lines. The Army faction insists endurance will force better terms. The Navy, gutted and realistic, sees only inevitability. Yet both sides share a terror they refuse to name, that surrender itself may be worse than annihilation. A courier enters with another dispatch. This one intercepted Allied radio traffic. "American Bomber Command remains on standby. No indication of pause," he reports. Anami closes his eyes again, longer this time. In another chamber of the bunker, the Supreme Council for the Direction of the War, the so-called Big Six, is assembling. The news must now be carried upward, closer to the Emperor himself. Before leaving, Anami speaks one last time to the room. "We will present facts, not panic, not speculation, facts. But facts today are lethal." The meeting adjourns in fragments. Officers bow stiffly and disperse, each carrying the same unbearable knowledge. The old equations of war no longer apply. Courage cannot intercept a bomb dropped from the stratosphere. Loyalty cannot stop radiation. Death itself has changed shape. As Anami walks down the corridor, aides trailing behind him, he passes a sealed steel door. Beyond it lies the Imperial bunker, His Majesty's refuge, the threshold between command and consequence. Inside his mind, Anami rehearses the words he may soon have to speak to Emperor Hirohito. There is no precedent, no doctrine, no honorable phrasing for extinction delivered from the sky. Elsewhere in Tokyo, the public remains largely unaware. Newspapers still speak of resilience. Radio broadcasts urge calm. Families line up for rationed rice. Children play among air raid rubble. They do not know Nagasaki has joined Hiroshima as proof that the war has crossed into something unrecognizable. Back in the bunker, Admiral Toyota confers privately with naval officers. "Even if we fight on, we cannot stop this." August 9th, 1945, evening. Imperial Palace, Tokyo. The palace grounds are unnaturally quiet as dusk settles over Tokyo. Gravel crunches beneath the shoes of officers moving toward the underground imperial shelter, their steps measured, ceremonial. Lanterns cast soft pools of light along the corridors, disguising the tension etched into every face. Inside the Emperor's bunker, the air is cooler, the walls lined with soundproofing and reinforced concrete. This is the heart of the Japanese state, the final sanctuary of the divine sovereign. Emperor Hirohito waits, seated, small in stature, dressed in a simple military tunic. His expression is composed, almost detached, but his eyes are alert. He has already been informed of Hiroshima. He knows the war is unraveling. What he does not yet know is that the unraveling has accelerated beyond control. General Anami enters first, followed by Admiral Toyota, General Umezu, and Foreign Minister Shigenori Togo. They bow deeply, almost to the floor. Anami steps forward. "Your Majesty," he begins, voice steady, "we have received confirmed reports of a second new-type bomb." Hirohito's eyebrows lift slightly. "Where?" "Nagasaki," Anami replies. The emperor closes his eyes, not in surprise, but in recognition. The pause lasts only a second, yet it feels endless. "Explain," Hirohito says. Toyota takes over, choosing his words with surgical care. "Our experts believe it is similar to Hiroshima, but possibly of a different construction. The implication is clear. The enemy has options." Foreign Minister Shigenori Togo steps forward next. "Your Majesty, we must also report that the Soviet Union has declared war on the empire." This time, Hirohito does react. His head turns sharply. "The Soviets?" he asks. "Yes, sire. Their forces have crossed into Manchuria." The last diplomatic hope, Moscow as mediator, vanishes in that moment. The room falls silent. No one dares speak. Finally, Hirohito rises. His voice is quiet, but every man in the room leans forward to hear it. "How many such bombs does the enemy possess?" No one answers immediately. Anami bows his head. "Unknown, Your Majesty." Hirohito exhales slowly. "Then the continuation of the war may lead to the annihilation of the Japanese people." The word annihilation is not used lightly. It echoes off the bunker walls, stripping away illusions that have survived even the firebombing of Tokyo. General Umezu stiffens. "Your Majesty, the army remains capable of inflicting unacceptable losses during an invasion. The spirit of the nation is unbroken." Hirohito turns toward him. "Spirit," he says softly, "cannot stop a bomb that destroys a city in an instant." Anami shifts, torn between duty and reality. "If we surrender, we risk the dissolution of the imperial institution itself." The emperor meets his gaze. "And if we do not?" No one answers. Hirohito walks slowly to a table where maps lie spread, Hiroshima marked with a black circle, Nagasaki now freshly inked beside it. How many more circles before Japan ceases to exist? The men exchange glances. The question is not rhetorical, it is strategic and terrifying. Togo speaks again. "The enemy demands unconditional surrender. However, they have not clarified the fate of the throne." Then that must be clarified. This is the first crack in decades of absolute military authority. The emperor is no longer asking whether to end the war, but how. Anami senses it. So does Toyota. So does every man in the room. Yet resistance remains. "Your Majesty," Anami says carefully, "one more decisive battle may yet secure better terms." Hirohito turns back toward him, eyes steady. "I will not see my people destroyed to preserve honor." The words land like a thunderclap. For the first time, the emperor has directly challenged the ideology that had driven Japan into catastrophe. Outside the bunker, night deepens. Somewhere beyond the palace walls, Tokyo's citizens sleep, unaware that the fate of their nation hangs on conversations whispered underground. The meeting ends without formal decision, but the direction has changed. As the officials bow and withdraw, Hirohito remains standing, staring at the maps. 2 cities erased, a third waiting somewhere under an American bomber's flight path. The second atomic bomb has done what years of bombing and blockade could not. It has forced the Emperor of Japan to imagine surrender. August 9th to 10th, 1945. Late night. Imperial General Headquarters, Tokyo. The city above sleeps fitfully, but beneath it, Japan's war reaches its breaking point. In a reinforced chamber deep below ground, the Supreme Council for the Direction of the War reconvenes. The Big Six take their seats under harsh electric lights. Prime Minister Kantaro Suzuki, Foreign Minister Shigenori Togo, Navy Minister Mitsumasa Yonai, Army Minister Korechika Anami, Army Chief of Staff Yoshijiro Umezu, and Navy Chief of Staff Soemu Toyota. The news of Nagasaki has spread through the room like a toxin. No one debates whether the bomb exists anymore. The question now is whether Japan can survive another. Suzuki opens the session, his voice weary. We face circumstances unprecedented in the history of warfare. Anami responds immediately. The weapon's power the army does not dispute, he says, but surrender on the enemy's terms is unacceptable. Togo counters sharper. Another such weapon will not target an army, it will target a city. Toyota nods, and we have no defense. Umezu's face hardens, then we absorb the blow, as we have before. Yonai turns toward him. Absorb, he says quietly. Hiroshima was not absorbed. Nagasaki was not absorbed. They were erased. The argument circles, then tightens. 4 conditions for surrender. 1 condition, no conditions, honor, survival, the throne, the people. Anami insists on guarantees, preservation of the imperial system, no occupation, self-administered disarmament. Togo knows the Allies will never accept this. At 2 a.m., the debate collapses into deadlock. 3 votes for accepting the Allied declaration with the sole condition that the Emperor be preserved. 3 votes against. For the first time in Japan's modern history, the Supreme Council cannot decide. Prime Minister Suzuki rises slowly. Then, he says, we will ask His Majesty. The words freeze the room. Never before has the Emperor been asked to break a tie on a military decision. It is an act bordering on sacrilege. But there is no alternative. Shortly before dawn, the council is ushered once more into the imperial presence. Hirohito listens in silence as the deadlock is explained. He hears Anami's final appeal for resistance. He hears Togo's warning of annihilation. He hears the word atomic spoken openly now, stripped of euphemism. When they finish, the Emperor speaks. I have carefully considered the situation. The enemy's new weapon threatens the very foundation of the nation. Continuing the war will only lead to the extinction of the Japanese people. Anami bows deeply, trembling. Your Majesty. Hirohito raises a hand. I cannot bear to see my innocent people suffer any longer. We must accept the terms, provided that the prerogatives of the throne be preserved. The decision is made. For several seconds, no one moves. Then, one by one, the men bow. Some in relief, some in despair. Anami remains kneeling long after the others rise. When he finally stands, his face is pale, resolved. Outside, the first light of August 10th creeps over Tokyo. The second atomic bomb has ended the argument that armies, fleets, and firestorms could not. But even now, as the decision is set, danger remains. Not all in Japan will accept it. And before surrender can be announced, the Emperor's voice itself must survive the night. August 10th to 14th, 1945, Tokyo. The decision to surrender exists now, but only as fragile words spoken underground. Above ground, Japan is still at war. Within hours of the Emperor's intervention, diplomats begin drafting a response to the Allied declaration. The language is careful, almost surgical. Japan will accept surrender on the understanding that the Emperor's authority as sovereign ruler will be preserved. Foreign Minister Togo sends the message through neutral channels. Then they wait. Days pass in a suffocating tension. American bombers continue to appear over Japanese cities, dropping conventional explosives this time, as if reminding the nation that atomic fire is not the only threat it faces. Inside the War Ministry, opposition hardens. Young army officers, many from the Imperial Guards Division, whisper of betrayal. They have been taught since childhood that surrender is worse than death. Now they hear rumors, unthinkable rumors, that the Emperor himself intends to speak words of defeat. General Anami becomes their final anchor. He is torn apart from the inside. To the rebels, he is a symbol of resistance. To the Emperor, he has sworn absolute loyalty. He spends sleepless nights pacing his quarters, sword laid carefully beside his bed. On August 12th, the Allied reply arrives. They will allow the Emperor to remain, but only as a figure subordinate to the supreme commander of the Allied powers. The throne will survive. Japan will not rule itself. The cabinet reconvenes. The wording is harsh, but survivable. Hirohito accepts it. The war is over. Now comes the most dangerous step of all, telling the nation. The Emperor will record a broadcast, his voice, never before heard by ordinary Japanese citizens, announcing surrender. If the recording is destroyed, the war continues. If the Emperor is stopped, Japan burns. On the night of August 14th, Hirohito enters the recording room inside the palace. Technicians bow deeply as the microphone is tested. The Emperor reads slowly, formally, using archaic court language. He does not say the word surrender. He speaks of enduring the unendurable. The discs are sealed and hidden. Elsewhere in the palace, conspirators move. Major Kenji Hatanaka, armed and desperate, leads a group of officers in what will become known as the Kyujo incident. They storm gates, kill a general, and search frantically for the recording. Gunfire echoes through corridors built for silence. In the chaos, General Anami sits alone in his office. He writes his final note. I, with my death, humbly apologize to the Emperor for the great crime. He kneels, unsheaths his blade, and commits seppuku before dawn. By morning, the coup collapses. The recording survives. At noon on August 15th, radios crackle across Japan. For the first time, the people hear their emperor's voice. The war is finished. And it ended not with an invasion, not with a final battle, but with the moment the Japanese High Command heard that Nagasaki had vanished.